So I'm going to invite the panelists to come on. You can put your mics on. Shelly, you're going to come on first, aren't you? And I'm going to show your slides. I'm sorry about this. Can you put your mic on?
Yes, of course. Hello. Nice.
Hi, Shelly.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Now, we can see your face in the corner when you speak, and we can see the slide. I'm going to keep it like this, otherwise I think we're going to lose your face. I'm going to shut up now and give you the stage while you talk us through your choice of garment and basically the background and the principles to the selection that you made.
Yeah, of course. So my choice is a Target t-shirt that's made from 95% industrial cotton and 5% spandex. This t-shirt was put through the Accelerating Circularity trial, so of course it's a first choice for me. The spandex just makes it into the point of being able to be recycled again, and I'm wearing the t-shirt today.
Oh, you have to lean in and show us a little bit more.
I can't, sorry. Yeah.
Should I go to your next slide?
Yeah. So now I'm going to tell you just a little bit about accelerating circularity. Can you go to the second slide, please? Thank you. Accelerating Circularity is a nonprofit, and we're focused on building circular systems that turn used textiles into new raw materials. And what we're really here to do is to address the problem of waste in the textile industry. And we do this in several different ways. First, through education and events like this. Second, we have a suite of open source tools and directories that you're welcome to check out on our website. And one of our main focuses is on executing trials at commercial scale that connect the entire value chain. Next slide. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
You missed
there.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. At Accelerating Circularity, we take a systems approach, and the way that our founder likes to talk about this, I'm in Savannah today, which is not where I live. And I flew in over the weekend, and without the airport, the ground crew, flight control, my airplane would not have taken off, let alone landed. And that's a system. And we need that type of system for textile to textile recycling. And what this means for us at Accelerating Circularity, we are not just focused on a single material recycling method or technology. We think they're all important. We connect the entire value chain from collectors, sorters, pre-processors, recyclers, manufacturers, and brands and retailers for that pull through. And our mission is to create systems that can grow within the supply chain to become value-driven supply chains in of themselves with post-consumer cotton at the core. And then I think the last slide.
No, just coming back to this really, but I mean, it's going to take a minute to just ask you a little bit more about the work that's been going on this year, because true to your name, Accelerating Circularity, you've been really busy. Other people at Accelerating Circularity, like Carla, I think has been in New York recently announcing new ventures and partnerships. So what is the secret to accelerating the circularity? You've talked about different partnerships and different sort of materials that you're interested in, but how do you do this? How do you build these new stakeholder groups?
Yeah, so I'm going to focus on our next phase of work, which is called building circular systems. And in that, we put out some goals around the amount of content that we want to recycle. It's 325 metric tons in total by 2026. And what we do is bring the entire value chain together to develop products with the highest amount of post-consumer content as possible. And that's really, I want to say, the magic that we bring to the space is really creating those systems to promote textile to textile recycling.
And it is the hardest area, really, isn't it? Is the post-consumer,
Yeah.
because post-industrial tends to be cleaner, more sorted into types, more available in volumes. But post-consumer is a bit of a hodgepodge to unravel, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The way we think about it, it's materials from the wild or your grandmother's closets, and they're not uniform. There could potentially be legacy chemicals or other risks that are associated with these materials, but it's super important that we figure out a way to reuse them.
Yeah, sure. I think we're gonna move ahead now. We've on to the next panelist. Thanks, Shelley, very much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing Accelerating Circularity and your choice from the long list. Tricia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Great to see you, Becky.
Nice to see you too.
Yes.
And are you wearing something today?
I am wearing underneath my sweater because it's a little chilly here in New York. I am wearing circulose. So circulose is viscose, and but here today I'm talking about Circle.Lyocell.
Brilliant. And this choice, I think these garments came in just to the shortlist, just in the sort of the 10 to 11 area. But this was big news this year, wasn't it? This partnership between Zara and Cirque.
Yes, it was. And we talk about catalyzing circularity, and I just want to frame that, it's how we can activate, how we can build the mechanisms in order for circularity to become the commercial reality that we're talking about today. And so that's where this program, I thought, was really one that highlights how this can be done in collaboration with a mass retailer and the technology then that can build to scale. So this, and I have a garment here. Cirque was kind enough to lend this to me today. But unfortunately, the size was a little too small for me. And hard to see, but holding it up now, this is the dress. There was the skirt, so there were actually two fabrications in this collection. And one thing I want to highlight that you can't tell from the photo is there's a wonderful hang tag, because circularity is also about telling this story to the consumer. And I think this hang tag, as well as the landing page when this program came out in August, did a great job of explaining to the consumer. Because in order for circularity to truly happen, we have to have consumers involved in this, right? They have to bring back their garments. This, of course, will be happening in many regions due to legislation, but how can we make this happen together? So the hang tag has been great. Another area that I'd like to highlight is this is actually the second program that Cirque has done with Zara. So the first program was in April of 2023. And yeah, now you've moved on to Cirque. So why don't we explain a little bit about Cirque? So they are a US-based company. They're out of Danville here on the East Coast. And Cirque now has a pilot line. They will be announcing where they will be scaling for the future and having their full production scale. And they are an Earthshot Prize finalist. They're a Fast Company finalist as well. And I do want to highlight that they're also a B Corp, which I think is another way that we can talk about how businesses are catalyzing for the future. And their mission is threading together the future of circular fashion, where they want to make fibers that perform as if it was their first act. So putting this message behind what they're doing. If you go to the next slide, Becky, this diagram really shows you, and I think it's important to understand what the inputs are and what the outputs are. This is something that Accelerating Circularity is always explaining to the market. So Cirque, the inputs that they need are textiles that are no longer being used. They're rerouting them from landfill, and they can be a mix of polyester and cotton. And then what they do is they can break down the polyester and the cellulose from that cotton, in order to make new products. So they can manufacture Circ lyocell as well as Circ polyester. So that's what they're doing. In this garment that we're talking about that was launched on the next slide, you can see the full collection. There's 4 garments with the Circ Zara collaboration. This is 100% Circ lyocell. So the first collection that they did with Zara was a mix of both fibers, the Circ lyocell and the Circ polyester. And then this latest collaboration is the Circ lyocell. So you can see the full collection there. There were 2 different fabric constructions that were used. And what you can't really see in this picture is that it's almost a gauzy kind of open structure in the weave of this fabric. So very nice, that can appeal, that you can do circularity, but it doesn't have to just be basic, as we saw from what Shelly showed on the t-shirt, but you can bring in more on this fashion side. So very interesting. And I just would like to share a quote from Peter Majanowski, who is the president of Circ. And he said, in these collaborations, I talk about distilling the science and technology into this beautiful clothing, but it does even more than that. It helps align all parts of the system in a very simple visual way to realize that the solution is ready now, and we can come together and make this at scale. So that's certainly the vision of Circ, and the support that they have from Zara, who's also an investor in Circ, and what Circ is doing to really catalyze their product in the market is that they've also developed a program called Circ Ready. You can go on their website and see more about the mills that have been using Circ, and what they'll do is continue to work on new capsule programs. So that highlights some of the products and how Circ is bringing to market. I think you have one more slide there, Becky. What Circ is doing to bring circularity into the market with their product, Circ lyocell. And I'm happy to say, you know, as a part of the first generation of lyocell that was launched in 1992. And so it's great to see this next generation of lyocell with Circ.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That was so interesting to get a real recap on what they've been up to and their whole journey and the strength of that collaboration. And you're right, it's so hard with this kind of event to not be feeling the materials, to even have done a shortlist with all these materials and not be able to actually experience them.
Yes, so Becky, there's going to have to be another in-person one next year. That's what we need to do.
Okay. Well, thanks, Tricia. That was really interesting. Don't go away. We might have some questions for you from the floor. But next, I'd like to invite up Mr. Anurag Gupta, who's going to tell us about what they've been doing, manufacturing circularity, Pune yarns. Hello.
Hi, thank you, Rebecca. Hello, everyone. I'm from India, and we've been making mechanically recycled yarns for the last more than 15 years and making yarns for the last 30 years now. So what we've actually done is we've been able to put processes in place to be able to consume pre-consumer or post-consumer waste and recycle it mechanically to be able to deliver standard quality yarns at scale. Background noise. So what we are doing today is a range of 5 different products. They are called Pune. And the first one is Pune Natural. In this, we are able to deliver 30% recycled content or 40% recycled content, with this balance being virgin cotton. The recycled material can be colored pre-consumer or a post-consumer cotton. And then we have Pune Signature. Here we are blending mechanically recycled fibers with chemically recycled fibers. The fibers usually we are using from Birla cellulose, Leva reviva, and then we have Pune Iconic. Here we are using a virgin dope-dyed viscose along with mechanically recycled fibers. And then we have the Pune Vintage. Here we are blending post-consumer recycled fibers with polyester, recycled polyester. We are trying to bring in textile to textile recycled polyester, but for more now it is a PET bottle fiber. And in Pune Popular, which is the bigger brand for us at the moment, that is all post-industrial cotton blended with recycled polyester bottles. Mind you, there's no dyeing involved in any of them, and we can do a lot of colors. But what I want to bring to your notice here, bring out to the world that we are doing all this at scale. It is not boutique or small quantities, but we are doing 50 tons of yarn per day. And all the yarn is standard products going for some of the best brands globally. So what we've actually achieved is putting non-standard raw material into a standardized product to be used with for any garment collection by any brand without any fear of failure on the store shelf. And while we are doing this, we are delivering chemical compliance, we are delivering all these certifications from the Global Recycle Standard to FEM verified and then we've done our modules for the FEM verification, for the FSLM verification. We've done our compliance on the textile exchange, material change index. We've done the LCA on the Higg index. And if you go to these websites, you will realize that in all cases, the ranking, the carbon emissions turn out to be much lower than global standards. And we are doing it in green certified buildings. So we are proud to present our products which come with standardization, with compliance, compliant quality, and some of the best certifications globally. And it's all in a transparent manner, verified, so that you don't have to fear about your greenwashing claims or anything like that. And we've been working with a lot of the global machine manufacturers to develop newer processes for better quality mechanical recycling and spinning. We are proud to receive some of the first global licenses with companies like Truschler and Rieter when they launched their spinning systems for recycling. We actually partnered with them in the development of these products, and they were happy to share their first licenses globally with us. So that's about Usha.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I found it fascinating looking through the range before the event to see the ways in which you were blending and mixing and actually using different kinds of waste materials to make different blends and different qualities. Again, I haven't got them to feel here, but one thing that struck me that I wanted to ask you was, how are you working with post-consumer waste? I mean, are you finding the qualities difficult? Are you finding the quantities difficult? Or are you finding that you're actually able to get the supplies and the volumes that you want?
So there in the post-consumer bit, it is in the beginning stages in the sense that we've done a lot of pilot work with several brands where we've collected post-consumer, and we've actually not just recycled it into a single piece of garment. We've done work to the extent of washing, to the extent of chemical compliance, testing, and realizing the challenges. And now we are in the process of building up constant relationships with brands where the incoming material has to be of a standard quality, so that because we're doing mechanical recycling while chemical recycling, we are using some chemically recycled fibers as well. but most of it is still mechanical recycling, which is very cost effective also. So we have to develop constant streams of similar quality material. Now that can come from things like a hotel linen standard. It can come from things like workwear of a particular type, maybe just the t-shirts. And then you have to establish the whole chain for washing, removing the trims, testing, recycling, testing, spinning, testing, so that what we deliver is standard quality.
It's amazing the work that you're doing. I'd love to know, just very quickly, one last question. You know, at this time when we're hearing about different companies coming into trouble and, you know, finding it all very, very challenging, what's the secret to your success?
So, well, we've been at it at a very diligently and slowly working in this part of the country and trying to take up each challenge at a time and trying to bridge that gap by putting it into process. So the challenge was not to make the yarn, but the challenge was to deliver consistent quality, because ultimately, if we cannot deliver it at scale, if we cannot deliver the consistency, if we cannot deliver at the right price, it's not going to go far. So we've been working at all of these challenges one at a time to to put all these systems into place. So if I were to ever say that what did we achieve, it's not just about innovation on technology, it's more, as much at least, about putting processes into place to manage the challenges of waste.
It's incredibly impressive what you've done, and many, I think, can take a leaf out of your book about tackling things one by one and being in it diligently for the long run and looking at the different verification methods. Thank you. On that note of verification, I am going to ask our next panelist to come on and talk about her choice from the long list and her methods for verification. Ina, are you there?
Yes, Becky, thank you so much. And I think before I'm going to start, I also want to say a big thank you to you and the whole team for setting this event up now for the 5th time. I think is so important to really celebrate all the achievements of the industry in this time. So that's wonderful. And one of our teammates said this event becomes like a Christmas Eve of the textile industry today. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and I took a very different choice. I mean, I expected everyone taking, of course, a choice with a lot of recycled content. And why have I chosen a product with actually renewable and like organic virgin content? So I just wanted also to make the statement that although we need to, of course, urgently increase like the demand for recycled fibers and speed that up, we also at the same time need to see that all the virgin inputs that we're still putting into the processes and into the system need to be safe as well and need to be certified in a proper way, etc. So, and also I think that this trench coat obviously is also quite a complex project and product. And so I think it's nice if companies also take this stand with a very holistic approach. So not only the materials, but also a system around it, like the repair services, take back, etc. So I think that's the reason for this choice. And when now looking a little bit deeper into it on how we evaluated it, maybe on the next slide, Becky, you can share a bit that we've taken our circular design criteria as a basis. So it's basically a set of kind of very product and material specific criteria that makes it really measurable and verifiable. It's been developed since many years with a lot of collaborators in the industry and also like recyclers, sorters, manufacturers, etc. And lots of collaboration with brands that actually helped making it very actionable, and practitioners that are kind of using it. And hundreds of products are already verified with this by great brands that go beyond. And on the next slide, we see a little bit what's behind. So basically 4 pillars that are embracing circular inputs with like very safe measures on safe chemicals, either recycled input, but also renewable input. We see still need to be there, and then designing for future recyclability, of course, with composition, prints, metal yarns, etc., like all those kind of limitations that we need to consider. And then design for longevity, it needs to be part of it as well, with a must-have of like quality, durability, but also design choices that make it more repairable or more transformable. And then the system level as the fourth pillar, to like really also have a system in place of digital product passports, of take-back systems, intelligent sorting, to really, close the loop in a holistic way. And on the next slide, we see that, it was pretty exciting to assess all the products with the criteria software to see how they would perform. And so basically, we see that this garment has performed really well. So it has actually 3 of the 4 pillars definitely complied. So on the next slide, we see a little summary. So for safe and renewable inputs, it has like certified contents, also a few recycled contents actually here, and also certified labels, the sewing threads, inks, etc. Design for recycling, it takes a monomaterial approach with as well plant-based buttons, and also designing for longevity with a very durable material. Of course, we didn't have any quality test results, which are part of the criteria, so that's not we didn't have information about it, but aesthetic durability with like a classic style, neutral colors come with it, and enabling circulation with a system of care instruction, enhanced transparency, repair, as well as take-back programs. So we thought it's still worth mentioning, and of course we can always go beyond with more recycled content, but that's the methodology behind, and kudos to all the brands that were presented here.
Kudos to you, Ina, who's been hard at this for years now as well, and growing this assessment criteria, this really rigorous assessment criteria, as well as working on the digital ID technology, so that we can continue to really understand how things are made and where they need to go, and sort of trace them and send them in the right direction. I mean, your work in this area is phenomenal. What would be your one tip for the products that you saw on the long list? I mean, a few people were talking online about it's great to see all the different approaches, and there was quite a few comments about the fact that it was really unclear, that actually labeling was still really messy. You couldn't really tell what was making something circular, whether it was actually going to be circular at the end of its life. Could it be recycled? What would you like to sort of to get all those 30 companies and brands to be doing in the next year?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think maybe first of all, getting an understanding of their status quo, like, what is actually the data that I have about this product, like getting information about the garments, like when we try to, like, when we support brands in like what are the next strategic actions they should be taken, we do a lot of like portfolio analysis. So like really analyzing all the data in the PLM system and seeing, where do we stand now? And like, but I think we need to have the data and the information first at hand to take clever and smart decisions on what's the next step to focus on. And I think that is then also important to take the right targets and to see, okay, we're maybe at X% circular already with our portfolio in these kind of pillars, but actually design for recycling maybe is something that we really need to take action on. So I think assessments like that, and then setting the right targets, because that's creating momentum in the organizations that really get everyone on board. So I think that would be our recommendation.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's so right. Like take where you are, and then really understand where you're going to be able to make sort of measurable moves. Thanks, Ina. I could talk to you and all the other panelists for so much longer than this 5-minute slot we've got. But I'd like to next move on then to Kate, who is going to talk us through this bamboo-based sweatshirt and her assessment criteria. Kate, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Becky, and really great to follow you, Ina. I thought I was going to have to explain why I'd not chosen something with recycled content, but you did it brilliantly. I think why I chose this particular item, not so much for the sweatshirt itself, but for the collection it represents. So 73 circular range, certified by the Textile Foundation. is a collection of products that are really designed for recyclability. Many of them have got recycled content, but the really important thing to them is that they're feeding back into the system. And I think so much of what's happening at the moment is about trying to untangle the sort of the complex feedstock flows that we need to get on top of with recycling. And I know that's something Ina's doing a lot to encourage as well. Next slide. So I wanted really to just talk a little bit about a project we've just completed with that links to the Circular Textile Foundation and their brilliant work with BAM and many other brands. That was a funded piece of research to have a deep dive into design for recyclability, which is something we've been working on for a very long time, but to add in a couple of extra components. And those components really were around, firstly, yes, working with brands and looking at particular garments, something we're very comfortable doing to design for recyclability, but bringing the recycling technology companies into the conversation as well. So a series of connected workshops that really spoke face to face with some of those recyclers to I guess get a little bit more granularity than might be available, sort of publicly published information about what they need to feed their systems. And then also at the other end, working with colleagues at WRAP and Textiles 2030 to bring in that quantifying piece and to really understand, okay, what would this look like across a whole collection or across a whole inventory, and what carbon inputs and other environmental factors could be affected by those design changes. Next slide. So that project was only about a year, but it's going into a second phase to look across the industry a little bit more broadly. But one of the most interesting aspects to me was this understanding of a company's I guess sort of garment database in terms of what designing for recyclability could really do. We had a hunch at the beginning, as we often do, that there would be sort of maybe a third would be items that needed virtually no alteration to be recyclable. In fact, we found 41% of what we looked at to be completely recyclable already, and it was just a case of hooking those products up with the correct recycler. Another third, which turned out to be 46% of I guess our real sweet spot, where we could redesign, take away disruptors. So, you know, it might be a zip here, a different thread there, in order to make it recyclable. And then the final third, which actually turned out to be a smaller amount than we'd thought, of items that had really heavy disruptors. You know, if you imagine something that has so much stretch that to take out the lycra would be impossible, or that needs really high performance. So it felt like we were starting to get a handle on perhaps the big picture of how design for recyclability could work, and that's what we're spending time in the follow-on project doing for the next 12 months. Just on the last slide, I suppose, you know, we're still looking at those big challenges across the industry that I know, you know, lots of the research that's currently happening is, you know, how do we get around the really complex blends that still have no end-of-life options? What about stretch? What about fixtures and fittings and performance? All of these kind of processes and applications really need some more radical solutions. But I think when you look at the big picture, it's a pretty, you know, it's a more positive perhaps picture than you might originally think.
Definitely. I'm really impressed with those statistics. I mean, that's kind of amazing that you've already got over 40% that can be recycled, and then there's 40-ish% that just need minor modifications to then be recyclable. I mean, that's actually a lot more hopeful than I thought. But how challenging is this last nut to crack?
I mean, I guess at the moment it is hugely challenging, but I suppose, work in biopolymers for lycra. A lot of times, sort of fixtures and fixtures on the garments and trimmings. You know, why do we design them the way we do? If we make circularity part of the brief, then we know as designers there's always a trick to get around those items. But I think also what's so interesting is for all those materials that were in scope, so made from a mix of materials that can be recycled effectively. Think of all the offcuts in production. So, you know, for every garment that is designed for cyclability, you know, all the materials in that process will also be really appropriate for recycling. So I think, you know, it's probably back to the very first presentation, you know, thinking about the system as a whole and trying to understand how we can unlock some of those material flows, while still obviously keeping things in use as long as we possibly can.
Thanks, Kate. That's phenomenal presentation from all of the 5 panelists. Thank you very much for your comments from the long list and from your areas of expertise. Don't go anywhere. We are going to have some questions at the end. I'm going to move us on now to the next part of the event, though.